There's my daughter. So you can, I don't know, she might be able to.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6 o'clock, and it's time to begin our July 21st meeting. This time we'll call ourselves to order and turn it over to City Manager Larry.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The City Council uses the consent agenda to consider items that are non-controversial and routine. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and the vote of council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a council member or a citizen with the request at the consent of council. The consent agenda contains the following items, and there are 10 items. The first item involves approval and acceptance of minutes and reports, and there are 10 sets of minutes numbered 1A through 1H. Item I is the Finance Committee reports for June 2015. Which included a report that our fund balance for fiscal year ending 15 was approximately 24 million, and the unrestricted amount of that fund balance approximated 6.7 million for the fiscal year ending 15. These are preliminary numbers. Item 1J is the disbursement of fiscal year 2015 through 2016 City Council's discretionary funds. There are two sets of disbursements, the first of which is for from Mayor Pro Tem Nash, the amount of $600 for Monroe High School Athletic Foundation and $400 for the Christian Family Care Home. The second from Councilman Member Kazaya, in the amount of $3,000 for the Monroe High School Athletic Foundation. Item 1K is a summary of contracts awarded, change orders approved, City Manager's settlement of claims, and City Manager's discretionary funds. Total contracts awarded and change orders approved amounted to $273,000, and there were no settlements of claims during this period. Item 2 under consent involves 3 resolutions. The first is a reimbursement resolution with regard to installment financing for fiscal year ending 2016. The purpose is for the purchase of 2 fire trucks via installment loan that would be closed after the date of purchase. This resolution allows restoring cash funds used during the purchase process. The second resolution is honoring the retiring of Karen V. Ratliff. She's retiring from Parks and Recreation as a center supervisor at the end of July with 27 years of service. The third resolution is authorizing the Golden Leaf Foundation grant application for Arrow Point Water and Sewer Main Extension Phase 2. And this is in support of water and sewer line extension serving ATI Specialty Materials expansion. The proposed grant is in the amount of $280,000 and complements an economic development incentive grant awarded by Council on April 21st to induce the private capital investment of approximately $70 million and the hiring of 70 personnel. There are no matching funds required for this grant. Item 3 under consent is the capital project budget ordinance allocating Greenway Capital Reserve funds. The purpose is to create a capital account for the Greenways Initiative, in particular for a 0.3 mile connection between the Aquatic Center and Parks Williams Athletic Complex. This action will transfer $260,000 from reserve to allow contracting with a landscape architect who will prepare a grant application, supporting documents, and provide dollars for a possible grants local match and easement acquisitions if the grant is awarded. Fund balance in this reserve account is $300,000, and the grant program is Recreational Trails Program. Item 4 is cancellation of City Council strategic and regular meetings for October 6th. And the purpose of this action is to cancel the meetings which are in conflict with the Monroe municipal elections held on the same date. Item 5 is the contract for Arrow Point Phase 2 sewer main extensions. And the purpose of this is in support of the sewer line extension bid award to serve ATI Specialty Materials expansion. Staff recommends, as does the committee, for a contract award to the low bidder, Dillinger, at $109,000, and to provide a 5% for contingencies. This project complements the economic development incentive awarded on April 21st to induce private capital investments of up to $70 million and hiring of 70 personnel. Item 6 is a contract for professional services agreement for the Unified Development Ordinance and comprehensive rewrite of the zoning map. Purpose is in support of the contract award to Code Right Planners for rewriting the UDO and zoning map. Project cost is $196,000 and uses last year's appropriation from the manager's discretionary fund. Process is expected to be completed in 18 to 24 months. Item 7 is the Economic Development Incentive Grant to ATI Specialty Materials, otherwise known as, or previously known as Project PIPE. The purpose is to fund the Economic Development Incentive Grant award council approved in April, which took the form of a land conveyance of approximately 57 acres, which equated to a little more than $1 million, to induce the private capital investment of $70 million from ATI. Funds for the incentive are initially to be provided from the electric fund with a repayment by the general fund over a 15-year period at a rate of interest of 2.84%. Item 8 is a request for a 2-year extension of the Downtown Monroe Residential Investment Grant. Purpose is to extend the time of performance by UIM to complete 5 second-floor residential apartments totaling approximately 7,300 square feet at 211 and 201 North Main Street. The residential incentive grant was approved on September 16th of 2014 by council. Design conforms to the downtown master plan. Mr. John Wiggins has been diligently pursuing historic rehab tax credits, which in part has presented a delay in completing the design, permitting, and initiating construction. Item 9 is the Charlotte Monroe Executive Airport bulk storage hangar construction. And the purpose is to authorize documents associated with constructing a city-owned bulk hangar, 100 by 100 square feet, with a maximum capacity of 60 aircraft. Funds would initially be derived from the electric fund, repaid over a 20-year period at an interest rate of 2.84%. This is a subset of a larger project that was outlined in January of this year that included a commercial hangar at that time. The city hangar has a cost estimate of approximately $910,000. It will not require road improvements. Also, letters of intent have been executed by aircraft owners that support lease and revenue estimates of approximately $81,000 annually, which is approximately $21,000 in excess of the debt service, which is $60,000 annually. Item 10 is the Monroe Tourism Development Authority capital expenditure for purchase of a building located at 122 and 124 South Main Street. The purpose is funds a TDA initiative for reestablishing the Center Theater. Purchase of the adjoining building is in the amount of $300,000, of which $40,000 is fees, surveys, and minor repairs. This complements the existing public-private partnership to facilitate reinvigorating Monroe's downtown. The city will retain ownership of the building and parcel. This concludes the items summarized for the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, sir. Regular agenda, item 11.
Move we
You need to
approve.
move for approval.
Move approval. Consent agenda.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, that agenda approved. Moving to the regular agenda. Item 11, resolution donating surplus police vehicle to Union County Crisis Ministry. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor Council. I'm Ashley Ivy, Accounting Manager in the Finance Department. I'm here to present tonight in the absence of Lisa Strickland. City Council member Anthony presented a request from Union County Crisis Assistance Ministry for the donation of a surplus vehicle on June 16th. The city has identified 4 potential vehicles that may meet the needs of the agency. The salvage values of the most expensive vehicle of these 4 is deemed to be approximately $1,893. Surplus property can only be donated to an individual or an organization by resolution of City Council. And staff recommends that Council adopt a resolution and authorize the donation of this surplus vehicle to Union County Crisis Assistance Ministry for agency use.
Is that as is?
Yes. And that value is what is based on historical auction data that we can get through the online GovDeals auctions. That's the estimated value.
I move that we grant the request.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'm going to second that, and as long as it's as is, because that seems to be, we want to make sure that it's as is and that we won't be liable on down the line to make repairs.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that item 11 passed. Item 12,
Mayor,
yes,
I'm gonna ask that this item be removed, from the agenda at this time to our next meeting. I had a discussion with someone in the audience that had read the resolution that was put together by staff, and they were, questioning some of the wording that was there. And I just want to make sure that, the resolution meets all of the, general statutes or regulations that we have to follow, and at the same time, is going to meet the needs of whatever nonprofit that moves forward to try to save that house. I'd just like to have it removed at this time, move to the next meeting.
is that a motion?
Mayor, I would like,
I gotta get past this. Is that a motion, Mr. Billy?
I'm just
We do have
asking,
that.
I'm just asking that it be removed.
All right, any objection to the council?
yes.
You have objection, it being removed?
I'd like to go ahead and vote on it. I would not be in favor of spending $300,000 of a nonprofit because it's money we don't have right now, so I'd like to vote on it.
Are you voting on, what exactly are you voting on?
I'm voting against the funding donation to qualify for nonprofit entity. I'm voting against the $300,000 that was earmarked for this project.
Mayor, right now, you don't have really anything on the table. Mr. Jordan's made a request to have the removed, but it's not, there is no motion to table the item to the next meeting. You also do not have a motion on the agenda item, which would then allow Councilmember Keziah to vote against it. So right now, you don't have anything.
Mayor Kilgore,
Yes.
I'll make the motion to table it until our next city council meeting, especially in the absence of one of our members, will give us all an opportunity to have our voices heard concerning the matter.
Okay.
Ms. Mayor, if I could,
Yes,
only thing that if we could just remove the item from the agenda to a subsequent meeting,
okay.
that would do what I would hope we would do at this time.
Mr. Mayor, you have a motion from Councilmember Anthony that yet does not have a second, so.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second then?
That dies for lack of a
It
second,
dies lack
sir.
of a second.
So
District.
I'm just asking that it be removed from the agenda. I was one that asked that it be put on the agenda. I'm asking that it be removed from the agenda to
All right.
a subsequent meeting.
I'd like to hear what Mr. Keziah has to say. I'm sure there's a reason. Mr. Keziah, if you want to.
Is this where we can move on now to hear him, or where we at on this motion?
You
Mr.
can,
Lawyer?
I think you can discuss, you don't have anything, this is just on the item, so you can either hear from staff or you can hear from each other and then decide if there's a motion you want to move forward with.
Mayor,
One minute, Mr. Clerk. I understand, but let me be sure we got this right. Now, Mr. Jordan has asked it to be removed. All right, now, upon his request, do we need to take a vote on that, or we got to either approve his request or not? Where we at?
Where you are, sir, is that normally in that kind of situation, if you have unanimous consent of the council to remove it, then you can remove it. But what you have is an objection from a member to remove it from the agenda. Therefore, you either then have to have a motion to table, which you had a motion to table that did not receive a second. And so that has failed. And now you either act on the item or you take no action on the item. If you take no action on the item, it could come back at a later time. But that's up to council what it wishes to do. If it wishes to table it, there has to be a motion to table that is seconded and then it's removed. Since there is not a unanimous agreement to remove the item from the agenda.
Okay, does that put us now moving to Mr. Keziah's statement?
Mr. Keziah may make his statement if the council wishes to discuss the issue before having a motion on the table. Yes, sir.
Mayor, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I have been in contact with Shannon King, the business lady that is wanting to purchase the Laney House. We have had very good discussions. I would like to read a few of the talking points One, city agrees to give Windsor Street property all of tax parcel 09231-238 and Windsor Street frontage portion of tax parcel 09231-010 for the relocation of the Laney House. The city should seek a right of first refusal as part of deal of buyer of the Laney House if and when they decide to sell the house at some future date. This would be similar to the Nathan Kirby deal. If he bailed, city had option to get and protect investment, same here. It could be possible, be agreed upon with the owner of the Laney House. If the owner sells, the right of first refusal could define how a new value would be established by appraisal process. The exchange of this city-owned Windsor Street frontal property would be part of the city's contribution to help save the Laney House and require transfer as conditional district. It would be used as a buffer of office transitional between the historical district and the downtown commercial district. By making these parcels a conditional district would allow for city council and citizen input on how it is developed now and in the future. Also, part of this agreement would include the temporary closure of Windsor, the moving of any power lines, possible modification of north sidewalk, the modification of land grades to make move easier, and after upgrade would tie into city's improvement to the Richardson sidewalk improvement at the corner. Important note, this is not a city giveaway. It is the city of Monroe partnering with a local business to save a historical property in our South Monroe Historical District and put a non-taxable asset on the city and county tax books. What I would like, Mayor, is to have a committee of myself, Ms. Duncan, Susan English, and Brian Bourne to go over with Ms. King these talking points and bring them back, hopefully with a deal in August, if you so choose.
Okay, any discussions on what you've heard?
Okay, it's my understanding that the purpose of tabling it was for us to discuss it, pros and cons, and I think that is a fair thing to do.
Well, that's what I've been trying to do for 30 minutes and ain't got it done. That's why I keep referring to the city attorney. If anybody knows any better than me or the attorney, I don't know what else to do. Where we at?
Where you are, sir.
I heard what you said, but tell
Yes,
me
sir.
again.
Here's where you are. The motion to table was made, was not seconded. If it is seconded, you can then have that discussion and then postpone it. And the effect of the motion, if approved, if it's seconded and then voted on and approved, would be to move it to the next meeting. But what you don't have that because the motion was made and not seconded.
Okay.
Because there was no and if there had been unanimous consent to remove the item from the agenda, it could have been removed from the agenda.
Okay.
So then you're now down to, you're just at a discussion point where Councilmember Keziah has made a statement, Councilmember Jordan's provided input, Councilmember Anthony has provided input as well. But you currently have no action, you have no motion.
So
You're
where
just
we at? The
talking.
only thing
You're
we
just talking.
That's what I know. So we had the discussion of what Mr. Keziah has brought up. Is that what you saying?
That's what I'm saying is you're just talking about the item.
Okay. But that item, I want to be sure I'm on the right item.
Yes, sir.
And I would recommend that the mayor appoint that committee to work with city staff in proceeding with the talking with Ms. King.
All right, do we have any discussion? I'll start with Mr. Gordon. Mr. Gordon.
I have nothing further to contribute toward this. I mean, it's obviously a situation where I think, I do not speak for the council, but I would think that we all are interested in saving the house, number one, and we're trying to do it in the most economically feasible way, two. And three, Mr. Keziah apparently has contact with an individual who's wanting to assist in this area, probably not costing the city any money, hopefully, other than turning a parcel of land which is currently generating zero tax dollars into one that eventually would create some tax dollars. It sounds like a reasonable request to me. I don't know why we couldn't support it.
Okay. Ms. Anthony?
Okay, my position has already been stated, and that's to table it, to give us an opportunity for everybody to contribute. When there's anybody absent, I just like the idea of everybody being able to be heard. I'm not for it or against it.
Okay. Mr. Jordan?
Mayor, the only reason that I made this initial request for resolution was to provide options. This city council has continuously lost out on opportunities to promote downtown because we've allowed options to slip past us, because we've waited for private sector individuals to step up to the plate and do certain things. And for whatever reason, from time to time, they have not followed through on their deals. And I am hopeful that the deal that Mr. Kazawa refers to and that he has spoken on behalf of the city council to this lady about, I hope that that will be something that will happen. But in the meantime, I would like for the city to continue to keep all options open so that there's an opportunity for the community to work with us in the event that this private sector deal does not work out.
Okay.
And that's all that I was trying to do.
Ms. Doggett?
Well, this has been going on for some time, and I think that we ought to commend Mr. Keziah for going the extra mile to try to do something about this. He's talked with the lady who's willing to purchase the house for a nominal fee, and now the city can give us the property to move that house there. I think this is a good opportunity, and I think this is something we can explore, and I'm going to second the motion if Mr. Keziah has made a motion in order to do this.
We need a vote on that.
Well, you now have a motion, I believe Mr. Kazai made, it has just been seconded.
Okay.
So now you can have further discussion on that motion now.
Any other discussion?
And you also can have substitute motions. You, of course, are free to do whatever is permitted.
And we will have somebody on the committee from the historic district. Is that correct, Mr. Keziah? Is that what you said?
Susan English is from the historical district. We will bring this back to city council. City council has the final say so. I think it's the right way to go. We want to protect the property. We're keeping it in the general area, which is extremely important. In fact, Ms. King doesn't even have a problem if it is put in the historical district. So in my opinion, it's a win-win all the way around. We're very lucky to for Mrs. King has come up front and made this offer, and she may want to make a comment. I don't know if she does or not.
If you would, state your name and address, please, for the record.
Shannon King, 2665 Rolling Hills, Monroe, North Carolina. We have been in negotiations with St. Paul's, and we have not come to complete fruition, but we believe that we certainly have the capacity to do that. I think by allowing this, I want to relocate my business to downtown Monroe, and I think it would allow St. Paul's to remove the structure from their location. We would save a very important historical home for Union County and relocate it so that it could be a thriving structure, still very close to where it currently is. And we would do that in very short order. I understand that there have been challenges in the past, but if their city attorney was not on vacation, we might have been able to have a different.
Ms. King, any questions, Ms. King? You're done, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Just discussion, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Are we still allowed to have discussion?
Yes, sir, we
In the
have a
middle of the motion? All right, I didn't know. Just following the rules. I would like to say that I don't have a problem with what is being proposed. And I want the public to understand that even this resolution being on the agenda has served a purpose. Because there's a good possibility that these negotiations would have dragged on for quite some time had this resolution not been on the agenda. And that was the purpose of having the resolution come forward, to encourage people that were interested in saving the property just step forward and save the property before St. Paul decided it was going to do something with it, that it needed to do with it. I will not be able to support the motion, but I just wanted to make the comment that the resolution served its purpose by being on the agenda.
And I agree that the resolution did serve its purpose for being on the agenda, and it's a good reason why we should not table it and go forth with it and go ahead and consider it. And go ahead and with the committee.
Any other discussions? Hearing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Nay.
You get that, Madam Clerk? You get the vote? All right, that will pass. Any more discussions on the reference to committee? Council have any discussion about this committee? Hearing none, the committee that Mr. Kazire requested, I will appoint. Did you get those names, Madam Clerk? Okay. Item 13, demolition of located property on Franklin Street. Who's handling that?
Probably specific.
314, 334 East Franklin.
There was, but,
Huh?
I understand at the last council meeting, there was a request to place this item on the agenda. I vaguely recall discussions with the Brian Bourne, Assistant City Manager, that has been working on this project for a few years. The city did purchase this piece of property, I think, several years ago, and we have appropriated money in a previous budget year to demolish the 334 piece of property. I can remember Franklin Street. We do have a demolition contract in the works of $18,600 to demolish this structure. Utilities are being relocated this week, and it should be up for demolition next week.
What's that amount again for?
$18,600 that it will cost to demolish.
What are we gonna put there in its place?
That's that old garage building down there. You may know it. I don't
Where are we
mean to pick out a
gonna,
term, but
we're just gonna demolish it, we're just
yeah,
not?
just clean that area up.
That's right.
It's that old garage.
For
building.
the aesthetics of the gateway into downtown.
Yeah.
We're
It's
gonna
been empty
reseed
for
it
over a
and
year or so.
put it in grassed area.
You need a motion.
No, actually, sir, this was
Just
for,
information.
it was requested by, I believe, Councilmember Jordan that it be
Yes.
on the agenda. And and what you've heard is that we are moving towards demolition. Unless council does not want it to demolish, I think that I would recommend to you that there would be no motion because the city is moving along with the demolition contract.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 14, order declaring certain property located at 321 East Monroe Avenue for demolition.
Good evening, I'm Lisa Stywinter, Planning Director with the City of Monroe, and I'd like to bring before you a petition for an ordinance to declare 321 East Monroe Avenue unfit for human habitation and demolition. First, I'd like to orient you to the subject property. It is highlighted in blue. It's located along Monroe Avenue and near Blair Street. The site is approximately 0.20 acres and currently contains an existing 1,110 square feet single-family dwelling. Dwelling has been vacant for about 9 years. Staff, of course, has received complaints regarding the dilapidated and vacancy conditions of the dwelling. An inspection was conducted by Robert Rushing, our code enforcement officer, on August 6, 2014. During the inspection, there were multiple violations noted of the minimum housing ordinance that included failing roof, rotten siding, broken windows, exposed wiring, and holes in the wall and ceiling. I'd just like to provide a few photos of the dwelling. Code enforcement officer held and conducted a minimum housing hearing on August 20th, 2014, in which the property owner did not attend the hearing. As a result of the hearing, the code enforcement officer made and enter an order finding the said dwelling to be in violation of the minimum housing ordinance. An order the finding said dwelling to be determine the dwelling to be in dilapidated condition and order the property owner to repair or demolish. Property 321 East Mar Avenue does have a tax value of $5,300, and the land value is $12,100. HCB Construction, which is a licensed general contractor that the city has contracted with to provide us cost estimates, has provided the city with a cost estimate for repairs in the amount of $17,830 to repair the dwelling, which is greater than the 50% of the value of the dwelling. The proposed demolition cost is $8,450, and that does not include the asbestos removal. Due to the conditions of the structure, staff is recommending council adopt the ordinance to declare the property unfit for human habitation and demolition as submitted. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Is this an absentee?
Is this an absentee homeowner?
Yes. It is.
Do we know why that they didn't show up for the hearing, or they contacted, they just said they weren't coming, or do we have a reason?
Did you have any contact?
Yes, we had contact with her. She called me several times. She said she was going to start making some repairments, but she never did. I called her back to see if she'll follow up on it. Phone disconnected. I sent an email out. She received the mail, but never got a response.
I want to ask again to the city attorney, we keep having these houses and we're demolishing them because the homeowners can't fix them up or won't fix them up. I think it's more of they can't, and trying to hold them accountable. Once we demolish the houses, the city puts a lien on the property and we can't do anything with it. Nobody can do anything with it unless the homeowner pays to remove the lien. Is that not correct? And my thing is, can we not work with or have the owners work with either a nonprofit, or is there anything else that we can do besides just tearing these houses down and having these blank properties where nothing can go on them? We can't do anything. Nobody can do anything. It's just, and I keep asking that question because we keep having this, and I'm sure somewhere there's something that we can do either to work with the property owners or have nonprofit help with that, or hold them accountable, or do something. Is there anything, Mr. Attorney, that we can do?
We can enter into agreements with the property owners requiring them to undertake repairs. For example, that they would either have to post a bond in the amount of, say, potential demolition costs to do repairs. We can help put them in touch with nonprofits, but those agreements are only as good as the follow-through on their end. So we can do that, and we have worked often. Before you see these items come to you, this is not a situation where staff just brings it to you and wants it to move forward quickly. There is a lot of attempts at a lot of discussion, and what we have when you have an absentee owner is that sometimes they will say they intend to fix it up, but they don't. But we can work with those folks. We can, help identify resources and say to them, we're willing to work with you before we have to take this to council. Because once that house is torn down, you can't all you can do is put up another house or another property. The city doesn't own the property. The city has a lien for the amount of its demo cost, and that ends up with the same priority as unpaid taxes. So if they even try to sell the property, they've got to pay the city back. And a lot of times if they haven't paid, aren't paying us, they probably are not paying the taxes. We've noticed in some cases there are some of these properties that there are significant amounts of unpaid taxes. So we can continue to work with them, and we're happy to talk and also report to council on what efforts we think can be made to assist these folks. However, bearing in mind that our efforts of cooperation are only as good as the willingness on the other side.
I wonder, I'm just thinking out loud like some other folks. I wonder if we could also ask them and work with them, would you want to sell this house to somebody that will fix it up? And I know y'all exhausted with, I know all the procedures. You go with them, you meet with them, they don't show up, you beg them to fix it. I know all of that. But I'm just wondering, and I don't know what their answer would be, but if 1 out of 4 or 1 out of whatever say, well, yeah, if I can find somebody, so maybe somebody would buy it at the value now and fix it.
And we did. We got into, an investor came to us and wanted information on it, and we gave him the information, the price that the investor asked, gonna give her, she denied, she didn't wanna do it. So,
But you know, I've been in some of these houses. Some of these houses are so bad. If you go in there and you fix it up to some degree, you still ain't got anything. And you're still not gonna raise the neighborhood up unless you get houses that are so far going out of there.
I agree to that, but my thinking is, and of course, each house is a different entity, cost is different. You know, if somebody could take that house there and spend whatever to make it nice, would be less than what they would have to pay if they went across town and buy one at the same price range. And I'm just thinking, you know, if the owner was willing, and I'm hearing you say the owner was not even willing, I can't imagine why somebody would not be willing to do that and just let it lie there and tear it. Nobody can do anything now.
we made her aware of that as well.
I'm like some of the rest. I just want to exhaust all of our means, and I know y'all do that.
And some of the owners, they have a hard time letting go of these dwellings, regardless of the way they are.
But if we tear them down, there's nothing. It's just a blank vacant lot. There's nothing going to be on it. When is that ever going to happen? Do they sell it? What happens to them? I mean, we just have a bunch of vacant lots in the city. If we try to work maybe to come up with thinking outside the box and coming up with other alternatives, either trying to get them to sell it, like you said, maybe talking to her a little bit more, maybe she didn't understand, because I don't know why she would say she wasn't going to sell it, but she's going to let us take it over and put a lien on the property. So maybe, and I know you're doing a good job. I understand that. I'm just saying there's got to be something else besides tearing all these houses down and having all these lots. Surely that we can come up with something else. And I brought this up the last time that we came up with this, and this is really something that I'm really concerned about.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate that house?
1 to 10, 10 in the word, 7, 8,
Pretty bad.
yeah.
And this house has been vacant 9 years.
Yes.
If we could get houses early on, perhaps we could, you know, do something other than tear them down. Once it's gone that long, there's not very much you can do to save it.
That's what I say, if we could get the lot and get the lot to somebody that would put them a home on it, then we're ahead of the game as a city, and they're ahead of the game because they got a nice house, you know. And I don't know if you want to talk about going through nonprofits or whether you want to talk about going to Habitat or what, but just having a structure on that thing, and I don't know what the answer is either. Y'all work hard at it, I know.
I'm gonna make a motion.
We just grabbing for straws.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve tearing that house down.
I would second that.
Okay, any other discussion? I have a motion and a second.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just to add to the discussion, and I know that there's a motion on the floor. There are investors that have talked with me about the possibility of buying some of these older properties, and even with the properties that they may have bought that need some repairs, about having the city or asking the city to provide some low-interest monies to allow them to fix properties up. If you have the desire, you find a way. We haven't shown the desire. Okay?
We have what?
We have not shown the desire.
Oh, okay.
If we had the desire, we would find a way.
I'm
Just
open.
like the Laney Lee house. There
Right.
was a desire, we found a way. When we have the desire, we will find a way.
Have you got a suggestion, sir?
I've got plenty of them, but this is not the time.
Okay, all right. Well, we need it before we tear them down.
Well, but we have to have the desire first,
Okay,
okay?
all right. Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed?
Opposed for reasons stated, and I have the desire.
Okay. All right, that was item. Well, see, we got about three more.
That was
didn't we?
14.
14.
Yes, sir. I was going to say, we got another two to talk about.
And before we go any further with this, could it be confirmed by the staff that these properties that you were bringing, so we don't have to have this redundant conversations, can we have it reiterated by staff that these were not just the 3 that you happened to write out and see this morning, that there's history here, that long history, and that these have just risen to the top of our list, and a lot of effort has been gone into this. Is that not correct?
That is correct. Most of these houses have been vacant and in a state of deterioration and now have reached to dilapidation for years. Due to various different reasons, the economy went down, property owners didn't have the money to repair them. We didn't have budgeting for demolition of these properties and so forth. Not so much as proactive on the deterioration cases, minimum housing cases, but now we are being proactive on all minimum housing cases. So, and we've had a whole laundry list of these houses that have been building for all these years, that these are the ones that have rose to the top. So after we get through those, there won't be as many dilapidated. We're now getting to the ones that y'all are going to start seeing some deteriorated, so we can catch them early on before they get to the state of dilapidation.
Well, the one we just voted on was, what you say, 8 or 9 years?
9 years.
9 years.
But you know, Bobby,
Yeah.
if we don't do something, then the people's gotta live around those houses.
Oh, I'm all for doing
That's not
something.
even
I'm just all for
sanitary,
fixing it if we can.
And you're gonna get people
Yeah.
that are, don't you have a lot of people going in there and sleeping in there that's not supposed to be in some of these houses?
At times.
Well, I'm all for doing something. There's no doubt about that. I was just like some of the rest of them. I sure would like to figure out how we can fix that up. But you've been dealing with it for 8 or 9 years. Okay, we'll move on to the, is that 321 Monroe?
The next one is a petition for an ordinance to declare 406 Everett Street unfit for human habitation and demolition. Subject property is located, or highlighted in blue, and located along Everett Street. It is also within our South Monroe Historic District. The site is approximately 0.17 acres and currently contains an existing dwelling of 1,257 square feet, single-family dwelling. The dwelling was built in 1930 and is considered a contributing structure within the South Monroe Historic District. Since this dwelling is located within our South Monroe Historic District, any renovations, additions to the exterior or the grounds would adhere to the Historic District guidelines. So we are only within our Historic District properties in our district guidelines, we're only looking at the exterior and the grounds. I just wanted to point that out. The dwelling has been vacant for about 4 years. This is another one where we've received complaints regarding the vacancy and dilapidated conditions. An inspection was conducted by staff on July 8th, 2014. During that inspection, some of the violations consisted of failing roof, rotten siding, broken windows, exposed wiring, and missing plumbing, holes in the wall and ceiling, and weak floors throughout the dwelling. Just like to provide a few photos. Code Enforcement Officer held and conducted a minimum housing hearing on September 4th, 2014, in which the property owner did attend the hearing. As a result of that hearing, the Code Enforcement Officer made it enter an order finding said dwelling to be in violation of the minimum housing ordinance, determined the dwelling to be in a dilapidated condition, and ordered the property owner to either repair or demolish within the 90-day time frame. 406 Everett Street has a tax value of the structure of $6,300. Land value for the subject property is $11,900, and HCB Construction provided the city an estimate in the amount of $19,148.50 to repair the dwelling, which is also greater than 50% of the value of the dwelling. Proposed demolition cost is approximately $9,050, not including any asbestos removal. Due to the conditions of the structure, staff is recommending council adopt the ordinance to declare the property unfit for human habitation and demolition. I would like to point out that if council does approve the demolition ordinance tonight, it will then go before the Historic District Commission for approval. The Historic District Commission has the authority to approve the demolition ordinance with a delay of 365 days. They do not have the authority to deny the demolition request. Staff would also like to point out that even though we are recommending council adopt the demolition ordinance, we have struggled with this case as other houses within the historic district, because either way, whether we demolish or we don't demolish, this is still going to be an impact to the historic district. If you demolish, you're losing another historic property from the city and the historic district. If you choose not to demolish, it impacts the districts because there you have a vacancy, dilapidated dwelling that poses a potential location for crime and so forth. So it's kind of a difficult one, but I'll be happy to answer any
I have a
questions.
question. Robert, you said it would take $19,000 to fix that house.
Yes.
You can't fix that house for $19,000.
Yes, you could.
What did the homeowner say, Lisa, when they showed up for the hearing?
First, the bank went into foreclosure. The bank, when it went down south, economy, and then the bank said they gave it back to him. He said he was gonna start working on it, but he never come forward to make the effort to start working on it. When we went in the house, it was a house fire, has been set in the sink, in the bathroom, in the floor, in one of the bedrooms, in the floor, human feces in the floor, everything. Everything's in the floor. People's living in it, going in and out. The back doors keep being,
And the taxes haven't been paid since 2005.
You couldn't fix that house to where it would be an asset to Everett Street for $30,000, could you?
The
I
cost,
guess what I'm trying to say is, and I hear where Deborah's coming. I don't know how you save a house. I mean, if the city went in and redid that house and then turned around and put it on the market to sell, is that a feasible option? It's not a feasible option.
well, the cost estimate that's provided by the contractor is just the amount that would cost to repair the dwelling to be to minimum standards. They are just going in and fixing the violations. It's nothing
still-
above and beyond that.
You still, based upon that, you still have a house that does not look good, right? I mean, it's nothing to write home about. It's not gonna attract a decent
Just
renter
is
probably.
repairs to meet the minimum standards to be fit for human habitation.
And it goes before the historic commission. I'm gonna make the motion to demolish it with the understanding that the historic commission has the final say.
I'll second the motion, because I tell you, I'm around Monroe all the time, because I coach kids. And I'm in some of the roughest neighborhoods, I'm in some that's not so rough. And, it is what it is. If you've got something out there that's not gonna be an asset to a street or to a community, then you gotta do something about it. Now, if we could figure out a way to make some of these repairs and sell them and know they're gonna be an asset, that's one thing. But if they're gonna drag down, if I lived on the street and that house was on there, I wouldn't be particularly happy. Because it's dragging my value down, and it's not only that, it's an eyesore. But that's my opinion now.
Well, the Historic District Commission could, and I'm not saying they will, could hold it up for 365 days. And if they do that, maybe they can find someone that will go in there and fix it up and make it, what it should be for that part of town. I'm not saying they will, I'm just saying that could happen yet.
Right.
I know enough about building to look at those pictures and know that you couldn't fix that house up for $19,000. Ain't no way.
No.
No way.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I did.
Oh, yeah, any other discussion?
Just one thing, Mayor. You mentioned that the historic district, if they delay it for a year, that someone might come along and be willing to purchase it, fix it up, turn it into a viable property. I doubt very seriously if someone is going to do that with us standing there with a demolition order in our hand. What out do we have with this demolition repair should somebody come along and express an interest in that property in the next year?
I'll attempt, and then Majid can chime in. My understanding is just because council does adopt the demolition ordinance, there is not a set time frame that we are required to demolish. Of course, you wouldn't want to let the, it sit in the state of dilapidated conditions and you have a demolition order on the, approved by council and not act for years and years, but there's not a set time frame. I'll let you.
I don't disagree with the planning director when she's correct. And what the other part of it would be is having the demolition ordinance in place gives the council, gives the planning department leverage. It allows them to say, you know, please meet certain expectations for what you'll do to get the house back into at least minimum housing conditions, meet minimum housing standards. So it does give leverage, and as Ms. Steiwinter pointed out, it doesn't require the city to tear it down within a certain time. So it does provide leverage, and the city can defer when demolition would take place if there is a willing partner on the other side, and there is proof from the willing partner that they have the means and the ability to help bring that house back up to code.
Okay, so if a willing partner comes along and says that they are interested in purchasing the property from the owner and they come to an agreement of the minds, this willing partner has to be able to go to a bank, and, you know, and arrange finance, and they have to do due diligence. Again, what is to assure them that we are not going to still go forward with our request or order for demolition?
What we can do is find out what the bank's concerns are in that case and say that based on this, if they receive funding and meet certain standards that the construction will be take place within this period of time, the city will not demolish the structure. And it can be an agreement between the city, the property owner, and the bank, if needed, to say that it's absolutely clear the city will not knock it down. And if they were not able to meet the requirements, then the city could tear it down. We would not have the ability, if they were doing everything required of them, to tear it down if we signed that agreement. So we can negotiate a simple agreement.
That's what I wanted to know.
Question, Lisa.
Yes.
I know you don't have an answer, but you might give me just a wild number. How many houses right now do you suspect that would fall into that category that we have inside a 2-mile radius of downtown Monroe? Got any idea, Robert?
I know there's a few in the historic district now that we've been going back and forth of kind of what to do. I know there's at least 4 or 5. But how many is within a 2-mile radius of downtown? I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Opposed, hopefully the Historic Commission can do something that we've been unable to do.
Okay, that'll pass this one. Item 16, this is ordinance declaring certain property at 805 Gordon.
This is another petition for an ordinance to declare 805 Gordon Street unfit for human habitation. The subject property is highlighted in blue and located along Gordon Street and South Branch Street. The site is approximately 0.09 acres and currently contains an existing dwelling that is 646 square feet. The dwelling has been vacant for about 7 years. Of course, we received complaints about the vacancy and dilapidated conditions. An inspection was conducted by staff on October 20th. Some of those violations of the minimum housing ordinance included failing roof, rotten siding, broken windows, missing plumbing, no heat, holes in the ceiling and weak floors, and exposed wiring.
Ain't no way in the world you can fix that house up.
600 square feet, I mean,
That
that's a big.
borderline's pathetic.
Code enforcement officer held and conducted a minimum housing hearing on November 3rd, 2014, in which the property owner did not attend. As a result of the hearing, the code enforcement officer made and entered an order finding said dwelling to be in violation of the ordinance and ordered the property owner either to repair or demolish within 90 days.
Move, we tear it down.
What did the property owner, you tried to contact him, have you had any conversation with him at all?
Yes, I had, I spoke with the heirs, neither one of them was interested in, one of the heirs lived right beside it.
Oh, wow.
He won't even answer the door, you know, he got the mail, he signed off, and the other sister that lives in some parts of Georgia, she don't wanna have anything to do with it, it's just,
Were they interested in selling it, or?
well, no, cause I sent the investor over to them as well, and he made an offer. Nothing.
Hey,
What
Lisa,
says-
put the picture back up of that house on the roof, on the ceiling.
This one?
Look at that, you'd have to burn that house down and start over. There is no way in the world that there's anything in there that you could attach anything to. That's,
That was a stove.
What's the size of that lot again?
What are the stove
I
in
have
the
it
part?
upside down.
huh?
Picture
That was
upside down.
ceiling, that's the ceiling, like, pretty much, and it had
That's
the,
interior.
Well, that's what I have.
What's the size of the lot?
The lot, 0.09 acres.
It's not even big enough to put anything on it.
There's got to be a reason why they don't want to sell it. They don't want to fix it up. They don't want to have anything to do with it. They don't want to sell it. I don't know if maybe they're not understanding or if there's some kind of other issues that's going on here. It just doesn't make sense to me. So.
the taxes, you know, they think they'd be responsible for only paying the
Well,
back taxes on it.
part
Now,
of it,
keep in mind now, if you listen to these people, most of these houses hadn't had a tax paid on them in 10 years.
I make the motion to demolish it.
There's so much owed on them, there's no way anybody, the only thing we can do is tear these things down and auction them off and take what we can get.
We're not auctioning them off. That's the
I know
issue.
that, because-
If we could auction them off, that would be one thing. We're going to have nothing but vacant
It's
lots.
the auction.
We're going to have nothing but vacant lots, and we can't do anything.
we could give them maybe habitat.
Not if we don't own the
No, we don't own them. We have a lien on them. We don't own them. There's nothing we can do with it.
Now, once we tear it down and we do the expenditures of tearing it down, we can't get our money back by taking the real estate.
We could attempt to foreclose, however, that would be subject to the unpaid taxes first. So it would be a situation of I don't know if you can get the value from the land that would represent the cost of demolition plus the cost of the taxes. So it's not a situation where we advise you to foreclose on it because of the unpaid taxes, which in this case have been unpaid for how many years?
This one, it was the previous one that
Previous
had
one was
unpaid
10.
taxes since 2005. This one actually has a little bit of unpaid taxes, but not like the previous case.
But in terms of the lien is a powerful incentive, but if the city wishes to foreclose on it, then you have city-owned property that all you have is the city owns property. And one of the things is that takes it off the tax rolls. It also means do you wish to have property that the city owns that is a vacant lot as opposed to the vacant lot?
But
Let me ask you this then. There's two or three angles in looking at this. One is the betterment of the neighborhood. The betterment of the neighborhood would be to tear the house down. Secondly, if you could donate it to Habitat, then you put it back on the tax roll. You're not gonna get the tax money anyway, so I mean, you can't get blood out of a turtle.
If the city would pay the taxes, and take the demolition, add it together, do a foreclosure, I mean, if we can, I'm just saying, can you do that? Subtract that from the value of it and pay the difference,
You
and
have zero.
can you do that on the foreclosure? I mean, why can you not?
You have zero.
You could, but the question is there any value in that property after that? But I don't know what the cost of demolition would be. I think it's in the report.
Okay, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate with you then. There is value based upon
7,000.
improvement of neighborhood, because the people would feel better about the adjoining surrounding properties and would probably have more of a feeling about wanting to maintain their own, so.
What is that probably valued at right now?
Property value is approximately $27,000.
God,
The demolition cost is $74.50. Yeah, so,
Well,
was
yeah,
I
well-
reading the tax numbers right?
Well, I don't know what the tax is, but you got $7,500. Let's say the tax is $2,500 or $3,000. I bet it's not that much. Let's give it $5,000. Because you only got $8,500 to $9,000 into a 27, which I don't think is worth $27,000.
Can't,
But you could take that, and if you can foreclose on it, like you say, you got a house, you got a lot, that we can put somebody to build a house on it.
but that, Mayor and Council, that if you end up in a situation where the city forecloses on the property, and then the city owns it, yes, the city can then sell the property to someone else or donate it. However, that is a policy question for council. If the council wishes to be in the business of doing that, you do have to also note that which properties are you doing that for? You've taken 2 other properties and agreed to demolish those, plus others that you have done within the last year. So the question ends up being, are you just picking and choosing which properties you wish to save? And that may be seen as arbitrary in a way. However, if council wishes to do that, perhaps with this particular property, it may be appropriate to table this until a future meeting so we can bring you further information. But I think you also have, I believe you've had 2 motions to demolish. I don't know if you have a second for either one. So it'll be up to council where you want to be on it.
I've got a first and a
So
second.
we have to,
Yeah, we've got that, we were still in the discussion time, but I agree with you, this is something we can talk about down the road. This is not something we're gonna
Hey,
settle
Mayor,
tonight.
I'm gonna tell you something. We need to have a full special city council retreat or meeting to talk about this, because this is, we gotta think out of the box. I mean,
Well-
we're sitting here dragging our feet and we got a problem, and that's horrible.
Well, that's what I was saying, this is not something we can settle tonight, we've got time to talk about it, down the road later, because this is not something that's coming down tonight as far as something we're gonna have to do. But I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay,
Mayor,
yes,
in the next 30 to 45 days, I recommend that we sit down and talk about this issue.
I'll get back with you on that unless the council has some other discussion. No other discussion about that, I'll get with you. Okay. Item 17, cooperative agreement with Union County for the Urban County Community Development Block Grant Program.
Okay, this is a request to consider partnering with Union County in order to be eligible to participate in the entitlement program for the Urban County Community Development Block Grant. And yes, Union County did prepare the presentation tonight. They've prepared it to present at other municipalities, so I just piggybacked off their presentation. Union County was recently contacted by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and was informed that our county qualifies for an urban county entitlement for fiscal year 2016. This qualification enables the county to receive community development block grant funding in an annual amount of $1,120,000. As a non-entitlement local government, Monroe is eligible to participate in the entitlement program if the city agrees to partner with Union County. The CDBG program is a flexible program that provides communities with resources to address a wide range of community development activities that are directed toward revitalizing neighborhoods, economic development, and providing important communities and community facilities and services. The CDBG program provided annual grants on a formula basis to 1,209 general units of local governments and states. The annual CDBG appropriation is allocated between states and local jurisdictions called non-entitlement and entitlement communities. Entitlement communities are comprised of metropolitan cities with a population that exceeds 50,000 or at least 50,000, and qualified urban counties with a population of approximately 200,000 or more. As I mentioned just previously, an entitlement is defined as 200,000 residents. According to the 2000 census data, Union County's population is approximately 230,000 residents. And due to the number of residents that live within the municipalities of Union County must first demonstrate participation amongst the majority in order to begin a year-long application process. The CDBG entitlement program allocates annual grants to develop viable communities by providing decent housing, suitable living environments, and opportunities to expand economic opportunities, principally for low and moderate income people or persons. HUD awards grants to entitlement communities to carry out a wide range of community development activities over a 1, 2, or 3-year period as selected by the grantee, which in this case would be Union County. Not less than 70% of CDBG funds must be used for activities that benefit low and moderate income persons. In addition, each activity must meet one of the following national objectives that would benefit low and moderate income, as mentioned before: prevention or elimination of slums or blight, and then it must address community development needs having a particular urgency because existing conditions pose a serious and immediate threat to the health or welfare of the community. Based on the previous formula dollars allocated to the program, as I mentioned before, Union County would receive approximately $1,120,000 in the first year of the grant. And the amount, of course, may shift in and out years based on the formula by the federal government. Entitlement communities are responsible for developing their own programs and funding priorities. So if Union County becomes an entitlement community, it will be responsible for developing the programs and funding priorities. As part of the application process, Union County must develop and follow a detailed plan that provides for and encourages citizens' participation. This process emphasizes the participation by persons of low or moderate income. The plan must provide citizens with the following: a reasonably and timely access to local meetings, an opportunity to review proposed activities and program performance, provide for timely written answers to written complaints and grievances, and identify how the needs of non-English speaking residents will be met and how they can reasonably expected to participate. So if Union County chooses to participate in if Monroe chooses to participate in the entitlement program for Union County, there will be a year-long application process, and we will have an opportunity to provide input on the program and funding priorities that are outlined by Union County. Union County is the HUD's region's #1 priority. The deadline for the Union County to receive municipalities' letters of participation have been extended from June 22nd to July 24th. And Union County is seeking participation from non-entitlement local governments located within the county in order to be eligible to receive entitlement funding. Once again, if Monroe chooses to partner with Union County on this program, it may limit the city's ability to apply and receive other CDBG grant funding. Due to the fast approaching deadline for Union County to respond to HUD, staff is seeking input from the full council rather than taking this item before a committee for discussion. Staff does defer to council on whether or not council wishes to enter in the CDBG cooperative agreement. And Richard Matins with Union County Human Services is also here to answer any questions, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Lisa, isn't this basically the same thing what we've been doing for some time?
No, the city has been, we are considered a non-entitlement community.
I know that, and I don't mean to stop you, but
No, you're fine.
I don't mean to be rude. I know we're non-entitlement. What I'm saying, have we not been, and I see Richard back there will recognize you, we've been partnering with the county in the past few years on a HUD grant, but this is different than what we've been doing.
Right.
Okay.
We've been receiving permission from Union County to administer the CDBG Scattered Site Housing Grant, and that is a non-competing grant that is offered every 3 years. That funding for the housing is no longer. As of right now, there is not any funding that's allocated to the Scattered Site Housing Program. So that's where we've been working with the CDBG grants and partnering with Union County in the past.
I see Richard back there. Richard, yes. You want to come up? Come up, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Council. Thank you for this opportunity. I do want to bring a couple other points up. And listening to your previous conversations about the blight of these homes in the historic district that were there. A number of activities are allowable by this. There's 28 different activities that are allowable and certain ones that are not, okay? What I want to emphasize is some of these, or regarding economic development, housing rehabilitation is allowed. Community centers, code enforcement, homeowner assistance, and even micro-enterprise assistance is available through this HUD money, the CDBG money. All of which I see would be a very big asset to the city of Monroe, and particularly in light of the conversations you were just having. And I'm sorry, I couldn't comment. I was begging to say something, but I couldn't. But these are some of the fundable projects. As long as we prioritize this money, again, as Lisa was talking about, it's $1.12 million a year just to begin with. And as far as we can tell, this is in perpetuity because we're only going to get bigger as a county. Marshville has already bought into it, which is very important because I think they can benefit as well. Weddington has bought into it, Waxhaw has bought into it, and Stallings has bought into it. Indian Trail is still considering it. They're getting back to me tomorrow about it. But as long as we have at least 100,000 population represented by everybody, we can apply for this grant. And it's not competitive. It's formula-based, so as long as we follow the rules, the money comes to the county. I've convinced the county manager, my department will take the administrative burden. So the municipalities will not have any administrative burden in this. We cannot vary from the plan that is submitted, and because if you would participate, you would have a big say-so in what those priorities are and where that money goes. Again, because we have a very wide variety of population here and needs, throughout the county, we'd have to take into consideration. But just those municipalities I've mentioned are the ones that have signed on. And so they're the only ones where the money can go. Because of the others, if they've opted out, and they cannot participate for at least 3 years of this process. I do want to make a point about certain things that cannot be funded. I think it's very important that everybody understands that as well. That we cannot have building for general government or general government expenses. We cannot do political activities. But most importantly, we cannot do new housing construction. So there's going to be no Section 8 housing tower going up, but rehabilitation is allowed. Okay? And I think that's really important for the city of Monroe to understand, that this is something that we can utilize for that purpose, should that be a priority for the 3-year plan going forward. And again, I just wanted to add those points to it because I've heard your conversation. I thought those things were very, very important to bring forward to you all.
Does that also, some of the houses we were talking about tonight would qualify for that?
The details would have to be worked out, but definitely, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that you want to prevent the blight that started, okay? You have to make it worth the bang for the buck, and how you do it, and you have to be very careful how you allocate the money. But yeah, these are projects that can be utilized as long as it's for moderate to low-income individuals.
Is any strings attached?
And there's no local match required. First of all, I think that's important. This is 100% federal dollars, and the issue is it's a pretty large administrative burden. They allow a 20% administrative cost, but you have to color in the lines. And if anybody knows my history, I color really well between the lines here, having to deal with a lot of things we've had to deal with lately.
Yeah.
And we are guaranteeing a fair participation and also that we will do it right. And again, the advantage to the municipalities is there's no administrative burden on the municipalities other than representation on this planning group and participating. And we would not do anything that this group would not want done within the city limits.
Well, I know in the past few years, we have worked with the county on HUD program.
Mm-hmm.
That's why my question was, is this the same? So it's not the same, but it's got all the basics.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it, and I think most of you understand it. And I know there's a lot of folks in our city has used this HUD money to fix their homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some of these people who could have got some of this just would not do it and let their home deteriorate.
Right.
Because we have put the word out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very good program for people to come in to get some money to rehab their homes. And like I said, we've done some of this in the past, and I think it's a win-win situation. And I thank you for doing it.
No, and I appreciate it. Again, I think it's great that since we now qualify, it's my job to look at all human services and the needs here in the county. And I thought this was something that's extremely crucial because we've not caught up as a county with the growing population and the needs there. I do need the cooperative agreement signed And I need to get it to HUD by Friday, to be very honest. I mean, I'm sorry, but they gave us last minute, but they said we'll give you an extension of a month. And I do sincerely apologize for the last minute of not going through this council's processes, but I do appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you all tonight.
Any other questions?
Just one question. How did Union County get to be HUD's, be the HUD's region's #1 priority?
Because we have qualified for years but never applied for it. Ever since we reached 200,000, we've qualified. When they realized that we as a county were interested in it through a dialogue we've had over the past year, they finally reached out to us and said, okay, you're not qualified, can you get this in? And I said, if you give me an extension, I can do my best to get it in by the extension time.
Now, this came up in the last meeting I was in Charlotte 2 months ago, the regional meeting. And one of the gentlemen talked to me about it there, and it was brought up. So I don't want to say I know all about it. I'm familiar with it.
Yes, sir.
And I know our people has used some of this money before. And again, I say it's a win-win situation. But does the council have any questions? Other questions? Mr. Jordan?
Just make a motion that we approve the recommendation.
I'm gonna second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, that
That's
passes. Thank
very
you much.
encouraging. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much. Item 18, presentation of economic development report. Mr. Chris Patay, we recognize you, sir, at this time.
Working on an unfamiliar computer, so apologize. Eric Kilgore, Council Manager Phase, and it's my pleasure to present tonight the Monroe Union County Economic Development Annual Report for fiscal year 2014 and 15. This report is a little different, and it will also not just cover this fiscal year, but also the time of the interlocal agreement that ranged from January 1st to today. Economic development is a team sport. For it to be truly successful, virtually every city department, the manager's office, everybody has to work together with the EDC, and that is very much the case here in Monroe, and I cannot express my support, or thanks for my support from the manager's office and this council over the years. Just a few milestones of the past year. We've concluded the first countywide work plan for economic development. As a result, basically from January 1st to 2013, it generated $355 million in new capital investment within the county. 42 projects were announced, and 1,152 new jobs were announced and created. And unemployment over this same time period in Union County dropped 40%.
That's a milestone, that 355 million, isn't it?
It's a little bit of a milestone. We sold Monroe Spec Building number 3, and that went to Glenmark Pharmaceuticals. Shannon Farm in Mineral Springs was evaluated by Duke Energy for their site readiness program. And we diversified our industrial base by adding digital printing with the O'Neill project and pharmaceuticals with Glenmark, and also increasing our long-term aerospace sector with the ATI project and others. This has also been the best 12-month run in capital investments in Union County history. So it's one of those that, to set a record there, we're very, very pleased with that. Also, again this year, we maintained the lowest unemployment in the Charlotte region. It's the 16th straight year of doing so. We were able to achieve $77,000 in grants, from lighting rebates and recycling grants to the Duke Energy matching grants, as well as $2.65 million in 1NC grants from the state of North Carolina to help us secure some of the projects. Recognitions: we were the top 5 supplier location for Boeing, a top 10 place for reshoring manufacturing facilities near a major airport, that being Charlotte Douglas, and also a top 10 no-brainer manufacturing location in the South. The existing industry, as you guys well know, my staff, I cannot speak, give them the justice they deserve. They are just phenomenal, and Ron and Gretchen just do a world-class job of maintaining and working with our existing industries and satisfying the needs of those folks, which is where a majority of our investment comes from. So an event that we always hold is was the 16th annual Industry Appreciation Day event. It was the largest to date. It was 170 employees. We held existing industry seminars, identifying some energy efficiency measures, as well as working with millennials and finding ways to bring them into the labor force of the manufacturing environment. And that was extremely valuable to the existing industry base. They work with approximately 20 companies per month, or 230 plus individual touches with the existing industries. That doesn't include our events and seminars and things like that. So it's an incredible amount of work that they handle on a monthly basis. And so with that, there was 40 specific issues that came up this year that they worked with to help resolve, being financial assistance, efficiency, business-to-business interactions, utility issues, permitting, workforce, you name it. They have just fed the gamut working that out. One of the things that we're really proud of, Gretchen spearheaded a labor shed study and a wage salary study. That was completed just a couple weeks ago, and so we've been putting the data together and submitting some of that out. But the results were pretty fascinating. We had done a labor shed study prior just for Monroe, so this is the first one that was actually countywide. So over 30%, nearly 30% of our industries participated. It gave us a large pool of data to work with, particularly the companies that were represented in that. So the data is really reliable on the sample. Roughly, you can see here in the orange, there's always going to be orange, sorry. But this orange is the salary, and the blue is your hourly workforce. So that's basically the pool and where we draw from. So you can see that while it's Union County, we draw from a significant geographic area. One of the things that we found out that was actually a little bit surprising to me in a good way was 61% of the manufacturing employees actually live within the boundaries of Union County. So looking at that, and when I worked in York County, we did these studies before, and it was around 52, 55%. So it shows how much of what we're doing to bring companies in, the actual labor force is staying here or moving into this area. What was also great, of that 61%, 67 of it actually live in Monroe. So you can tell Monroe is the manufacturing hub. It's also the labor hub for our manufacturing center. Looking at that breakdown of that, 47% of the salary folks that live in the county live in Monroe, and 72% of the hourly folks live in Monroe. So, and that's where the real benefit comes, is the hourly folks that actually are doing most of that work. If you look at the manufacturing base overall, where they're coming in those two bubbles, actually 40% of all the manufacturing employees live in Monroe. So while we're bringing these industries here, they're also living here, and it's fantastic from that standpoint. Approximately 15% of the manufacturing employees live in South Carolina, as you can see in Lancaster and Chesterfield, some in York, and the rest of them come from Mecklenburg, Cabarrus, Stanley, and Anson counties. With this, when I started in 1999 here in Monroe, we were looking at the wages. The wages were roughly $9 an hour for manufacturing. Today it's $18.48 an hour. That's a direct result of the Aerospace Initiative, driving in these high-value manufacturing companies that have driven that rate up. So we've more than doubled the manufacturing wage since '99. And the average salary employee earns approximately $52,650 a year. Again, a very, very strong number. These numbers do not include bonuses, which a significant number of our employers provide bonuses as well. When you see that bonus come into play, we're actually higher than all industries combined. All commercial, everything is around $20.30 an hour, with the manufacturing population is actually earning more than that average. So it shows that you can make real long lifetime careers in manufacturing. We do a lot of marketing. The social media is a huge presence for us as we continue to grow into that, trying to just get the word out. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channels. We've done multiple, before the Paris Air Show, we did multiple videos for our existing industries to showcase there using LinkedIn. One of the things that we did was, trying to be a little different, was created Unite Us. So Unite Us is, if you're familiar, Flat Stanley. If you have grandkids or kids, you may have heard of Flat Stanley before. We take him out and we take pictures with him at the industries throughout the county, block out the industries' names, and then try to tell something about what those companies do. And this is not done on a professional, like the LinkedIn and Twitter remain for the professional people that follow us. This is more for the Facebook, the general population. And what he's been able to do is incredible. Within 8 contests, we put him out in 8 communities so far. He's generated a 120% increase in our Facebook traffic. Once these people like it, they start to see all the other data that we put out on Facebook. So it's incredible. They're starting to be educated on what's actually happening within the manufacturing world that's here in Union County. So it found a way for us to really reach out and communicate with the general public, because we're always talking to the manufacturing population, so we need to talk to the general public as well. So he's been incredibly useful. So a little bit of a risk using a cartoon, but he actually he's done his job. So he's our 6th employee. The other thing is, because of what we're trying to do, we're trying to generate positive stories. Several years ago, we all know that there were some stories in Union County that were terrible. So that was what people were saying about us outside of our borders. We needed to change that. We worked with the Charlotte Business Journal to create a piece. 2 years in a row, we've done some other significant stories to get out there. So it's not only hit locally and nationally, it's hit internationally. So Monroe and Union County has been placed in a lot of areas. Southern Business and Development Magazine, the Paris Air Show News, Aviation Week, Area Development, Charlotte Business Journal, Charlotte Observer, Inquirer Journal, all of them. Mecklenburg Times generated good stories for us. One of the things that came out of our Twitter program was we were tweeting about Ludwig. And if you were familiar with the Sunday Observer, they did a full three-page spread about Ludwig drums here in Monroe. It was a phenomenal piece for us. And so it was one of those things that generating stories, even just from the Twitter, it made them aware of it, their reporter aware of it, so he started following up. Because one of the people that he interviewed was Questlove, who's the leader of the Roots, which is the Tonight Show band. That was what our tweet was about, that since before Doc Severinsen and the Tonight Show, they've been using Ludwig drums, all the bands. We've also been on the road, exhibited at the Paris Air Show, Speed News in California, the Southern Business Economic Development Roundtable in Florida, the consultant event in Chicago, the National Farm Show in Louisville. And back home, we've held the 4th annual Groundhog Day Economic Summit, the 16th, as we mentioned before, the 16th annual Industry Appreciation Day, and our 1st annual Broker Appreciation Day. Looking at product development, Monroe basically houses all the product development right now. We still need to find product closer to Charlotte and in the more rural areas to match up with the work plan of trying to help agribusiness as well as office development, some other things closer to Charlotte. Things that Monroe haven't been able to compete for, mainly because 74 is hard to get to Monroe for certain projects that want to be on an interstate. So the Shannon Farm property in Mineral Springs is 150 acres. It's a prime railroad site, and it was evaluated by the Site Readiness Program. We're working with the private sector trying to develop sites. We're working specifically on 3 sites right now, one in Indian Trail, one in Waxhaw, and one in unincorporated Union County in between Monroe and Indian Trail. We're still working with the other towns on the basics, the zoning and planning, utilities, just understanding the needs of businesses. And then the long-term project that's been started here in Monroe, the Sutton Park redevelopment. We received some information back from Diener, sort of the final steps that Apex Tools environmental consultant needs to do prior to tearing down the building, and then the process comes where that land will start to transition to the city. So hopefully, we're being optimistic here about that, but I really think we should be able to get control of the piece of A1's Catalyst site in Sutton Park by the end of 2016. Finally, the spec building. We worked very hard trying to get a private sector person to come in. There's several things that have slowed that down. We can talk about those in a minute, but they we just could not get them to come and put up a building, particularly in the time frame that we needed it. We were having too many projects walk out the door. So we applaud and appreciate so much Monroe stepping up and doing the 4th spec building. So we're developing the specifications now. We'll hopefully bid and award that at the end of October, begin grading in the fall, and hopefully have the structure complete by July 2016. So looking at the year-over-year comparison, you can see in FY14, the goal was 300 jobs. We exceeded that goal. In 2015, 717 jobs were created countywide. 625 of those are in Monroe. So Monroe houses basically 87% of that activity. 400 of those jobs are earning $60,000 or more. So that's, again, showing the change in manufacturing. That's just a snippet of the unemployment rate looking in the last 18 months. There's basically 2 months that we look at every year. It's April and September. Those are your bellwether months. Otherwise, May through August, you have kids coming home from school, from the university. You have teachers and high school students going out into the population looking for summer work. And so that pops that population, the unemployment, up. You see immediately in September how it starts to drop back down as they go back to school. So April and September are your true months. April that we just passed was 4.4% unemployment. You can see now as people are coming home, it's back up to 4.9. So we're probably around 4.5% unemployment. Just in the last 18 months, that's a drop of 11%. So it's nice to see that number drop. It does create more challenges for us because 4.5% unemployment is virtually full employment. So while that's not true for everybody, but as a statistical number, that really is, you're getting to a point that you're at full employment. Looking at the capital investment, you can see last year, because we were developing the work plan, trying to implement that work plan, create the office, the new countywide joint EDC, it was hard to get the numbers where we needed them to be. So we ended up missing our target on the capital investment number, but we were filling the pipeline. That pipeline came to fruition this year, $306 million. A third of $1 billion invested in the county. We're looking at roughly $288.6 million of that being in Monroe. So Monroe represents 77% of the project load and 94% of the investment. Existing industries, or looking into the next fiscal year and beyond, existing industry seminars will continue. The new existing industry handbook, if you're familiar, we used to do that for just Monroe. We're going to make that county-wide in 2016. We're going to continue to improve our grant capabilities, as well as, this is news, looking for strategic partnerships to find and mine Europe more and pull some foreign investment out of Europe. That's been a good place for us to go and find investment, but particularly now with Greece and other things going on, yeah, they're just having a hard time, so we'll take advantage of their disadvantage. Continue to promote manufacturing as a career and working with the business-to-business interactions and partnering with our friends at the Chamber to help us do that. We'll also continue to work with the local municipalities, which is very important for us since they represent so much of the geography of the county. And we'll be refreshing and developing a new work plan for 16, 17, and 18. There are some concerns. North Carolina's incentive debate is still a real and present detriment to our project generation. Don't anticipate that being finished for probably to the end of the year. So it's always a challenge because like several of these things, companies abhor uncertainty. They want to know that they can count on things for a while. So with us, throughout the county, Monroe has stepped up. Monroe has put in place in manufacturing business parks. They've put in partnerships for office parks. They've done things that others have not done. That's why we're reaping the benefit of that still. But there are projects that Union County are not being considered for because we don't have product further east and further west. So we need more buildings and we need more land. After the ATI project, that removed 57 acres from our source of available land. And when we say land, we mean land with water and sewer, access, not just a green field. Green fields mean nothing. So that's something that we need to encourage, to keep trying to grow. Also, 2016 is a presidential election year. It goes back to the uncertainty. It doesn't matter if you know exactly who's going to win until the election day is done. Companies hold. The day after the election, our phone starts ringing again. It's just one of those things that always happens. So looking in the short term, we would anticipate that our project load will drop in 16 just because it's an election year. It always does. And then finally, the pipeline for 2014 and 15, the one that we just had all these announcements, we cleaned out a lot of the pipeline. And we have not been able to really generate, because of things such as the incentive debate in North Carolina, more into the pipeline. So you can see here how it kind of went up and then flattened out. And that's really when the incentives started to have a lot of debate in Raleigh and some other things. So you can see that flattening out. We did better than we did last year, so the pipeline's bigger going into this year, but it's still only about 42, 43 active projects. So when you look at it, the funnel, and we've talked about this a couple years in the past too, where the funnel was inverted. Now our funnel is starting to close again at the top. We're just not loading enough. So it's starting to become a straight pipe right now. Now the value that sits within that funnel is roughly about $263 million. But that's fairly low from what we're used to. The funnel should be about $600 to $800 million. So we'll be working with that. And the Paris Air Show, we brought back 3. So we just have to go out there and keep prospecting and filling in the funnel. Again, just a quick summary. $60 million is the goal. $306 million, or $1/3 billion for the county. Significant locations and expansions. You can see majority of those are in Monroe, but we do have nice diversity throughout the county. I think Stallings, Indian Trail, Waxhaw, Marshville. So we're very excited about that. We're also excited to see that agribusiness is now the second largest sector behind precision manufacturing that we have. Agribusiness wasn't even on the map, so that's nice. And Krupp's Brands is one of those agribusiness projects that actually came through. They actually make the goggles for the equine, for the jockeys. So they relocated from Maryland to Indian Trail. So just a quick summary again, going through the list. The pipeline of projects, we totaled 60 projects into the pipeline this year. We announced 22 projects. The value, again, $306 million, creation of 717 jobs. The average of all 717 is around $54,000. If you look at it for the work plan from January 1st, 13, it was 112 projects generated. We announced 42. That's a 38% win rate. We're more in the 5 to 10% win rate. So to have that kind of win rate, that made up for some of those projects, the numbers of projects that we didn't have in the pipeline, was just amazing to have that kind of win rate. The annual investment for the 24 months, roughly 30 months, was $142 million. And the total capital for that whole period was $355 million again. And the job creation, 1,152 jobs. The ROI for Monroe, looking at the investments that Monroe puts in, the $300,000 annually, over that time frame, and tax base that's created after depreciation, what you would generate in property tax, we're benefiting Monroe 276%. So basically, I wish my 401k did that. So it's a pretty good return for the taxpayers of Monroe. We are very honored to be able to represent Monroe and Union County.
Chris,
Thank you.
that's outstanding, but and I know something of what, but, can you bring us up to date any more about our standing out there with the, such as all vaccines, et cetera? I know you touched on aerospace is what I'm really saying. Can you bring us up to date on the aerospace? How, are we still strong? I know we are.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, the aerospace, we did lose one company, obviously Turbo Mecca closed this year, but we were able to fill that building before the electricity turned off. So they were able to switch accounts and keep going with O'Neill. We are at 18 companies throughout the county in aerospace. It's roughly a third of our workforce. So it's a significant player. As Charleston continues to grow, as Savannah with Gulfstream, Honda Jet, Rolls-Royce in Virginia, we're right in the middle of all of this aerospace growth to the southeast. So our groups are just continuing to grow. The nice thing too is the aerospace workforce is drawing in others. So that's the pharmaceuticals was never a target for Monroe.
Are we a certain standard, North Carolina, what was that,
Oh, we're still the number one cluster by far.
number one cluster?
Yep. So we have the highest concentration of aerospace companies in the entire state of North Carolina and South Carolina. So we're roughly about 3,500 jobs in aerospace. And if you look at I believe it was handed out, the wage survey to you, you see the kind of a higher number, and then it drops in the second raise in the salaries. And you get into the 20s, $24 an hour, that's your aerospace guys. So that's what's driving that number up. So.
Great year, Chris. Please tell your staff what a good year they've done, and I sure give my appreciation.
Thank you.
A lot of hard work there. And like I said, at 355, that is more than a big year.
Yeah.
That's a big year. So we're looking for 4 next year. But
I knew that was coming. But.
Tell your staff thanks for all the hard work, and I know they've done a lot. Appreciate what you do out there.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Item 19, the resolution for amending the interlocal agreement for economic development services.
Nice follow-up.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Really good place.
Congratulations.
Well, yeah. So basically, it's a 3-year extension of the interlocal agreement with 2 one-year extensions as the agreement that you approved before. What happened was the county commissioners had canceled their, I believe it was June 6th meeting, which kind of shifted everything. So the dates didn't match up in the contract. So we're shifting those. It's basically for the work plan. So it's our performance dates for our office that moved from July 6th to September 8th for a draft. And then the 18th shifts to the 14th of September. And basically that first date should match up with the county commission meeting. The last date should match up with the city council. But other than that, there's nothing. And the interlocal agreement was passed last night with a unanimous vote by the county commission.
Do you need a motion on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I so move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, that passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 20 is the public comment period, and I have one signed up, and I'll take that first. Mr. Keith Olive, we'll recognize you at this time. And if you can do us in 3 minutes,
I'll make it short.
appreciate it, sir.
My name's Keith Olive. I live at 701 Lancaster Avenue. You guys took a lot of my steam because I spent a day and a half kind of prepping something to talk about 401 Everett Street and some of the issues you guys have been talking about tonight. So I can make it even shorter now. Lisa took some of my thunder because I did some research about the taxes and all that on that piece of property. So I'll start out by saying that I really like to hear the conversation that went on about trying to do something in the city. And I spent a lot of time looking at ordinance section 152 and 156, as well as general statutes 160 alpha. And all of those tie all together. And I know Lisa told me that Mr. Khan doesn't necessarily agree with the way I read this thing, but to me, 152 and 156 apply to historic districts as well as landmarks, and the words are in there. But anyway, my point being, 156 and 152 talks about a group of people in Union County. A couple of city councils, Monroe City Council and the Union County Preservation Commission. And 156 is our local ordinance that kind of ties in with that. There are a couple sections in there that I feel like we can do something, especially what the mayor was talking about, what Mr. Keziah was talking about. One of the sections in there is 152.019C, and it talks about the big concept here is something that they define in all three of these sections, and it's called demolition by neglect. It's a concept that's in the state general statutes, and it's in these other two sections. Demolition by neglect is basically a lot of what we've been seeing. Somebody buys a piece of property, they go out, they rent the property for a while, they can't get rent out of it anymore, so they just don't pay any taxes on it. They sit there and let it just deteriorate to nothing. And you guys brought up the fact, a couple of people brought up the fact of, what do we do with these vacant lots? Well, that's exactly what some of these people want. They want a vacant lot. You guys go out and do all the work for them, you do all the demolition for them, and then they end up with a piece of property that's got a relatively small lien on it, and then when the time comes, they got a nice piece of property they can sell to somebody to build a house on. And it didn't cost them hardly anything. And they got rid of a piece of something that wasn't any good for them anymore, that, like Mr. Keziah said, you couldn't fix up if you wanted to fix it up by the point it got to. So anyway, that was one section that kind of talks about it. My proposal there, you were asking for ideas. One of my proposals was that we go ahead, the city, somehow, through some means, buys up these pieces of property with the house on it, and they restore the house to the minimum standards, like we were talking about, and then they turn around and sell the property to first-time buyers.
Wrap it up.
Okay.
Wrap it up, if you will, please.
Okay, first-time buyers, city employees, veterans, whatever, and with things in the deed that say, you're going to stay here for 5 years, you're going to. The other one I wanted to point out, and I don't need to go into detail, but if you look at section 152.082, it actually says that you guys are allowed to make an ordinance to deal with demolition by neglect. The city council is. And I would kind of ask that the city attorney, as a request from the mayor or whatever, look at these sections and look at what other cities are doing to deal with demolition by neglect and how they're handling these issues. So I know it's been a long meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much.
You bet.
Is anyone else who'd like to address the council?
Hey, Mayor.
Yes.
You know, I sat here tonight, I thought Lisa, Robert, the young lady from the finance department, Chris, Ron's here. We got some really good employees. Why don't you guys stand up? Y'all do us a great job. We don't recognize you enough. Come on, stand up. Thank you very much. Ashley, stand up. You're young.
What about our IT man? Where's he at tonight?
Yep, stand up.
Where's Philip at the airport, man? I see him back there. I'm picking on you guys.
There you go,
I'm just
Philip.
picking on you guys.
No, really, y'all do us a great job, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for what you do. All right, hearing nothing, I have a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, before you do that, there's one thing that, actually, you were gonna get an email from me on, but I figure while we got counsel here, we can ask you quickly. There is an issue in the proposed budget bill that relates to municipal service districts. We have a municipal service district that deals with our downtown issues. And there is a proposal that allows those to be terminated by voter referendum instead of the mechanism where it's terminated by a city council. We believe, and a lot of organizations in the state feel that is something the municipality should oppose. So I just need to know if there's a consensus on council that we should advise the members of our delegation who are on the budget conference committee, which is all of them except one, that the city opposes that. And if you advise so, we can communicate that to them as they get knee-deep in negotiations on the budget.
So moved.
Any discussion? Council, any discussion? Everybody in agreement with that? Okay. Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Council have anything else? Anybody? Hearing none, I have a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Out of here. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.